So, who wants to go first with talking about their intervention?
I can.
Okay.
So I had up here a second ago a little thing that would let me screen share, but now it went away. Oh, there we go. Okay, so can you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is the outside of the pamphlet that we made in my group. So you can kind of tell, like, over on this side. I don't know how much you guys can see me, but the pediatric type 2 diabetes, that's the cover. And we just, took all of our information and put it together in the pamphlet. And then this is the inside. Can you guys see that on your screens?
Mm-hmm.
The inside of our pamphlet. And we just basically went through and we did the signs and symptoms of pediatric type 2 diabetes. And one of the things that we really wanted to make sure was that parents, there's this connotation that type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes, there's like a huge difference, and that people, that you don't need to be as concerned about one or the other. And the reality is the only difference is that there are things you can try to do to prevent type 2 diabetes with healthy diet and with excuse me, exercise and not eating tons of sugar and things. But type 1 diabetes is something that kids are pretty much born with. It can come out later, but the big thing that we wanted to make sure was that if you saw any of these signs and symptoms along the side here, excessive thirst, urinating, feeling tired more often, feeling tired, always hungry. A lot of times parents will mistake it for almost like the flu, and doctors actually miss it too a lot of times. That you need to immediately get to the doctor, because that is very, very dangerous. Anyway, so that is kind of what our intervention was.
Okay. So, are you good then? Do you want me to go ahead and on mine?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So my intervention, so I wanted to talk about like not picking up on social cues, and there was this article by this lady that like gave like 8 different things that like 8 different tips for children that don't really pick up on social cues, things that the parents can do that can help them. The first one was like practice making eye contact, and she said that you should encourage your child to look at your eyes when you two talk. Um, when they're focused on your face, you can see your expression change. And it said make sure your eyes are on her when she speaks to you too. Um, and then like ask your child like what different expressions mean. And if they don't know, you need to explain like the different messages you're sending based on like your facial feature or your facial expressions. The next one was encourage attention. They said that you need to give your child your full attention when you're talking to her, and when you do this, you're setting a good example. And then she said, like, when you're encouraging attention, don't be like texting or checking your email. Just and try not to let your mind wander. She said also, if you notice your child spacing off when you're speaking to them, gently guide them back by saying something like, "Can you please look at my face when I'm talking to you?" Um, the next one was observe your child's expressions, and you need to help your child realize how expressive their own face can be, and this can help them notice other people's facial expressions. She said an example of this was something you could say like, your eyebrows are raised. Are you feeling surprised? Or that's a big smile. Tell me what you're happy about. And so by doing that, that just helps them understand like different facial expressions. And the next one was notice others' body language. They said help your child begin to see what people notice around by saying what like people are saying with their bodies. They said playing charades can be a good way to get kids thinking about communicating through their bodies. And she said you can also point out behavior of people you see. For instance, like the man in that line is tapping his foot and fidgeting. How do you think he feels? And you can talk. Another thing, you could talk through how characters on TV are like feeling based on their body language. So that was another example. Something else was discuss what's expected in different situations. So basically, like how your child talks on the playground to friends shouldn't be the same how they address the principal. So just different ways of talking to different people. And she said that a lot of times, like kids who do have social, don't really understand social cues, have trouble realizing like how they should talk to different authority figures and different types of people. And the next one was point out pitch and tone. She said a lot of kids have, some kids have trouble noticing changes in voice and the inflections in the voice. She said when that happens, your child might miss a bigger message because she's taking speech too literally. So help them notice now. I don't really know what that word is in pitch and tone. So I guess like the difference in pitch and tone, and how they need to talk through how the same statement can mean a different thing based on the tone of the voice. And with that being said, she also said practice inflections. So she said if your child can read out loud, have her read to you regularly. Choose stories that have a lot of dialogue. That way they can practice changing their voice depending on how the character is feeling or what they're trying to say. If your child doesn't read well, she said you can read stories to them and have lots of dialogue or take out audiobook from the library and use that as learning how to relate to other people's different tones of voice. And then the final thing she said was role play common scenarios. She said that children who have trouble with social cues can benefit from practicing with like everyday interactions. She said to try role playing different situations with your child and respond to things that they do using body language and expressions, and then ask your child what messages are being sent out depending on the different body language and the different way you're saying things. So yeah, and then there's like another article that I had by a different person, and it just basically talked about like why children aren't understanding social cues and how like when children are progressing away from toddlerhood to like the next stage, their social interactions change, and suddenly like they're not able to make friends as much, and it's just not as easy, and they have to grasp the both like verbal and nonverbal cues from people, and so they need to be able to distinguish between literal and non-literal language. She said it's also hard because these children want to make friends, but they don't really know how to. And she said that a lot of parents have come to her and told her that like that their children, she said that their children just don't get it. And one reason is because their children need to be taught those social skills. So it's really important that parents are putting forth the effort to teach their children those social skills, especially because if their children can't pick up on them on their own, they need to be taught. And if children aren't taught, then it can really have a lot of devastating consequences. And she said just like be patient, because a lot of parents get frustrated when they put their children in certain situations with other children and the other children are doing really well and like they're not like socially incompetent, whereas like the other children aren't really good in those social situations, and so they get frustrated with their child. But she said you just need to be patient. You need to actually like take the time to teach your child those social skills. So yeah,
Perfect.
that's what I learned about with social cues and interactions.
Awesome. Caitlin, do you want to go?
Did she hear you?
Caitlin, can you hear us?
Hey, Caitlin, can you hear us? I think it might have.
She looks paused, doesn't she?
Yeah.
That's great.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Caitlin?
She doesn't look like she's moving.
Nope, it doesn't. Caitlin?
Eyes move.
Should I stop our recording?
Maybe.